This is Alan Baker and Bob Berge. We are the Association Director and the Technical Director of Eric Paulson's Combat Submission Wrestling Association. Welcome to the CSW Podcast. Okay, guys, today we're going to have Guru Rick Young on the show. Guru Rick has been studying martial arts since 1975. He first became a student of the legendary Dan Inosanto in 1979. He was awarded his full instructorship by Guru Dan in JKD and Filipino martial arts in 1995. This made him the first person outside the United States to be given this honor. Currently, he is teaching at Rick Young's Black Belt Academy in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another CSW podcast. This is awesome. The guest list that we're getting is just so high quality. Yet another one. Rick Young from Scotland. Everybody knows who Rick Young is.
Yeah.
Welcome,
Fantastic.
Rick. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. I was just out in Orange County with Coach Eric and had an opportunity to run into Guru Rick. And right off the bat, I was like, hey, we do this little podcast and I'd love to get you on there. And agreed to do it. So here we are. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
How often do you get out to California?
Usually twice a year. I try and get out twice a year for a couple of reasons. One is, my time is limited now. Before, I would go out once a year for like 6 or 7 weeks. When I was single, when I was young, I had no responsibilities. I could go out. Now, as you know, as you get older, you got more responsibilities. So time seems to be cramming in. So usually I go out for about a week, something like that. I try and go out for a week and try and get more intensified training and more specific training now. So I'll go and see Guru. Of course, I'll go and see Coach Eric, Sensei Eric as well, and then various other people, and just try and cram in as much as I can in that week. And usually what I try and do is go something like March and later on September, August, September. So I have roughly 5-6 months in between each trip. And that's because, as you know, there's also cycles that go on in the training out there. So maybe Sensei Eric's on one cycle when he's working on something in March, and then by September he's working on something else. So then I can try and catch up with the ebb and flow of what's going on. Also with Guru Dan, it's the same thing. When you go and see Guru Dan, he'll be working on something in March, but then in August, September, he's totally changed the curriculum, or he's switched things around. The other thing I like to try and do is try and get out to Brazil, usually earlier in the year, probably January, to go and train with my other instructor, Mestre Gomez. He kind of cuts his time between London and Brazil. So I try and hit him when he's actually in Brazil and get some training in with him then. So I did that this year. I went to Brazil in, I think, early February, and trained with him for a week and trained with various people down in Rio for a week. So that's how I try and divide my training. But as I said, time is tight. So usually it's 1 week, maybe even 6 days sometimes, 6-7 days in a certain country or a certain place, and then try and take that material, and it takes 6 months to work the material, go back, get told I'm doing it wrong, and then refill in, fix it, and then fix it up, and then try and work on it again. So that's the kind of way I like to go with that.
Yeah, you do this every year.
Yeah, I try. I try as much as I can. My wife is very, very understanding. I have my wife here. I have my 2 children. We have 10 chickens, 3 dogs, the whole thing. And I have my academy. So, she's great. She allows me to go, and that's really cool. Yeah. I try my best to get out twice a year.
How many years have you kept this up?
The first trip to the States was 84. August 84 I came.
Wow.
And that was my first trip to the States. The first time I met Guru Dan was in 79, September 79. So August 84 I came. I stayed for, I think it was 6.5, 7 weeks, and had my mind blown. It was an incredible experience. Just being out in LA, I was a kid, and coming to LA at that time, getting on the plane was just fantastic. And as we were saying before the interview started, that it's incredible the technology we have now that we can talk online, and we can see each other. It blows my mind. It's amazing. Back then, I mean, videotapes were really just beginning. The information wasn't really out there, so I'd go there, cram my notepad. I'd actually have an audio, have a little cassette that I would speak into after every class, and then after that trip, I came back in '85, and since then, twice a year, try to get back and get training with Guru Dan as much as I could. But that was the first time that I came. Yeah, it was '84. But I'd met Guru Dan in '79. He had visited London for a Bruce Lee convention. So I was a kid, 17, and him and Jeff Amada gave a demonstration, and it was just unbelievable. It just opened up a whole new world in martial arts. And what I'd been training in up to that time was great: the karate, some wrestling, some judo. So it was fantastic. But Guru Dan just blew my mind. Absolutely incredible.
And if I'm not mistaken, you were the first person in the UK to get full instructorship under Guru, correct?
Yeah, I was very, very privileged. Yeah, and that was great. It was amazing. And Guru, I didn't really feel I was worth it, to be honest with you. And it's a funny story, because what happened was he never really gave me. He actually never handed me the certificates. We had been here in a seminar in Edinburgh, and I drove him to the airport the next day on the Monday when he was leaving, and he had this envelope. And as he was getting out the car to go to the airport, he said, Rick, when you park the car, have a look at the certificates. And he said, then come in and tell me what you think. And I went, okay, girl. I said, no problem. So I parked the car. I didn't even look at the certificates. I didn't go inside. I just looked at the envelope and I thought, I'll check it later, because you get updated every year. I thought he was just updating my associate certificates. So I went into the airport, met him. We had a coffee with his wife, Simo Paula, and he said, "Did you check the certificates?" I said, "No, girl. I'm sorry, I never checked them." He said, "Give me a call when I'm in LA." I said, "Yeah." So I go back to the car, and I think maybe I should check them. So I checked the certificates, and that's my full instructorship, and Filipino arts and the John Fan and Jiggy D. And I started crying. I was actually crying. And I went back to the airport to try and find him, but he'd already gone through security. And I couldn't find him. And I just didn't expect it, because I felt, and I still feel, there was that many people who were way ahead of me, both in time and in talent. We were very talented individuals. We were incredibly gifted. And I just never felt I was on that level. And actually, when I called him, when I knew it was the next day, I told him that, I don't think I'm worth it, and he was very, very kind and said, no, I want you to have them. So that was that. Yeah. So I was very privileged to have that honor. Yeah. Very big honor for me. Yeah. That's
fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. Could you tell me a little bit about when you first met Coach Eric?
He's Coach Eric. He's always been amazing, and just really, I think there's two sides. Well, there's two sides to everyone, but he's such an amazing martial artist. I mean, when I met him in July '89 at the North Carolina camp, the Smoky Mountain camp, where I think Guru Dan, Fred Dejerberg was teaching, Sifu Larry Hartzell, Tim Tackett. I think Tim Tackett was the next year, but there was a whole bunch of people teaching there. Amazing camp. And I met Coach Eric there, and we got talking, and we seemed to get on really well, because at that time, Mark McFadden was there. And we seemed to be the only ones that were really taken up on the grappling. Not the only ones, but the ones we were predominantly kind of looking at grappling at that time. Mm-hmm. And then after the camp, I flew to LA, and I met Eric, and we went out to the beach. I mean, he had some roll out mats. We did some stuff like just there out in the open. He was showing me some stuff, and it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. Well, the thing was, the next year I went, and it was like he had accelerated at such a pace that I was just amazed. His learning curve was just insane. His ability to absorb information was just insane. And for me, I would pick up one technique or two techniques and say, "Have you seen this? Have you seen that?" He would pick up one technique and then make it 6, make it 7 techniques. It was incredible. I mean, maybe more. He really amazed me, and to see him go from where he was, which was already a great martial artist, going into what he became, going through the Shuto, going through all that, his fights and 91, 92, I think it was 92, 93 when he won the title. And then every time I would see him, I was like, Eric, you have to slow down. I can't take any more. I can't take any more knowledge, because you're just overwhelming me with this stuff. And as I said, he's always been so, helping me so much and advising me so much and trying to give me so much material. He's been a great coach, a great sensei, and obviously a great friend, And at that time, I remember one trip. This was, I think, 1990, and I had done a trip of 7 weeks. I'd basically gone around the world. I'd gone to Australia. I trained with Guru Dan in Australia. I then flew to LA. Then I flew to Atlanta. And then we went up to the Smoky Mountain camp from Atlanta. Then I got a bus up to Minneapolis. I did all that. I went all over St. Louis. I was all over, and I had no money by the end of the trip. I had no money. I had nothing, and I was staying at CSW Larry Hartzell's apartment on Culver in LA. And Coach Eric was working at a bar, but he hardly had any money either. We were both broke basically. And anyway, so I'm at CSW Larry's apartment. It's the last day. I'm going to leave the next day, and I have no money. I have $0, nothing. And I'm thinking I have to walk to the airport. My next meal, I never ate for 2 days. My next meal was going to be on the plane. I wouldn't be able to afford anything. I had no credit card, had nothing. Anyway, so Eric comes over to CSW Larry's apartment, and he said, "How you doing?" I said, "Great." He said, "How you getting to the airport?" And I told him, I said, "Well, I'm going to have to walk, Now I know Eric probably had $10 or $15 in his pocket because he had nothing. He had told me this. He said, "I got nothing." I woke up the next morning, and he had slipped into my coat. I think it was $10 so that I could get a taxi to the airport. So it just blew me away that he would give. It's easy to give money when you've got money. When you've got money, it's easy. But when you've got nothing, he gave me his last couple of dollars that he had. And that always just blew me away because, he was such a great friend, and I got the taxi to the airport, and, I was able to buy something at the airport. I don't know, I bought some candy or something. And, and it was great times, So I think going through all that with him, both as a coach and as a friend, and seeing him develop as he's developed, and to see CSW develop the way it's developed, which is incredible. I mean, his vision for CSW and the way he's taken it forward, and the way he's taken it globally is just incredible, And I'm so happy for him, both as a friend and as a student of his, And I'm proud, very, very proud to be his student, very proud.
Fantastic. That's excellent. So we just through conversation, we were talking about you slowing things down this year as far as seminars and everything, and focusing on your school more. We actually have a lot of guys who listen to the podcast that are school owners, and they're doing the same thing. They're trying to grow their school, improve their programs. So I had a couple of questions about some of the things you're doing to increase your student count and your school. Just starting with like marketing and advertising. Have you done anything special lately that's made an improvement, a difference?
I'm going to be honest. I think our school is slightly different from a lot of schools because the area we're in is Edinburgh, where I teach, in Scotland. Edinburgh has about 500,000 people in it. It's not a huge city, like LA or anything like Chicago, anything like that. But it's big enough that we have a lot of local interest. So most of our interest, to be honest, comes from word of mouth. So I think that's unusual for most schools. We don't really advertise too much, and also our growth has been very organic, in terms of like the CSW has exploded, in the last 5-6 years, even because of the interest in grappling. So when people will come in, they'll ask about BJJ, they'll ask about CSW. So those classes have organically exploded. The kickboxing, the Thai boxing, the STX, that has also gone up too. Yeah, the Cali, we kind of, because it's something we have like as not a secondary class, something I want people to be kickboxing first before they go into the Cali. We have a little bit less people going into that, but the classes are still quite busy. And for me, again, the way it's happened, because it's mostly word of mouth, is people that we are coming in, and it's not a huge influx, but people will come in drips and like 4s or 5s every month, and gradually it's been building up. So we haven't really got an organized, which I probably should have, to be honest, have an organized program where I'm saying I'm going to hit 20 people this month, get another 20 next month. And this is just the way that we've done it. And as I said, now I think we're up to 270, something like that, students, 275. And I'm really happy with that. And in the classes, sometimes take a while to adjust to their size, if that makes any sense, so people get to know each other. It's not like 10 people coming and we don't know each other, and we try to do that. Again, it's probably not the role model for a successful business, to be honest, but that's kind of the way that I do it right now. And of course we have Facebook. I use Facebook. We have the Facebook. We have a Twitter account. I don't use that too much. And that would probably be the mainstay for us. Yeah. Okay. Facebook would be the mainstay because it's more immediate, I think.
As far as when you receive a contact for a lead, how do you generally handle them? Do you do an intro session with them to bring them in? Free class?
Well, what we try to do is, first of all, when anybody's emailed or phoned up, we say what we'd like you to do is come down to watch a class, watch as many classes as you want. We'll give you the information at the school. You can, because some people, I think, have in their mind, some people want to do, I don't know, they want to do jiu-jitsu, but they're thinking MMA. And they come in, and sometimes what they want isn't what they need. So what they want is they want to be an MMA fighter, and then in comes this guy who's 45 and out of shape and can't throw a punch. And you go, well, actually, it's probably better if you go to the STX sessions, or you go into like a beginner jiu-jitsu or CSW program. So that's more what would be in line for you. So that then we can see, and then you'll have the young kids coming in who are 18 who just want to go. And that's fine too, because you go, okay, then we have a bunch of guys in here, we're good, and we can kind of nurture you in a different way and then take you forward from where you are. So that's why I like to talk to people first. And to be honest, also, because some people come in and you can just feel they're not going to be right for the school. Yep. They have an attitude that you think, I don't know, I don't really know if this guy's for the school or this girl's for the school. I mean, and I think for me, I kind of take the view that, you decide if you want to join, and we kind of decide if we really want to have you. Because there's a few people that, because it's not somebody's right to just walk in, because sometimes, people think they're buying you, which they are to a certain extent in terms of they're paying you money for your services. But also I think people go, yeah, but I think, and like people say to me, they walk in and say, how much are your private lesson? How much? And I go, well, I haven't said I would give you a private. At first, I don't do that many privates now anyway, but, do you think you're coming up and buying me, And first of all, I don't know if I want to teach you. Secondly, I don't know if I have the time. Thirdly, I don't really know if you need a private, do you need a class before you take some privates? Because you take privates to enhance maybe some of the skills you already have, to work on specific points. So I take the view that when people come in, we want to provide them a good service so they find a friendly atmosphere, a good atmosphere in the gym, which I feel that we do have in my school. I wouldn't say by any means that we're the best martial arts going or the best school in terms of talent, but we do try and provide good quality martial arts and make it friendly for people, because I think most people that come into martial arts are insecure. They come in because they want to feel secure. They want to feel like they can fight better, protect themselves better. They're going to lose weight, whatever it is, they really need something that's going to take them to another level. And if we have like a macho image, it's going to put a lot of people off. It'll attract some, but for me, it's going to put a lot of people off, And it's like the MMA itself. If you look at MMA, which I love MMA. I love watching UFC. I love what Sensei Coach Eric, his program's amazing. His program is fantastic because it can be done by pretty much anyone, and it's structured. Whereas a lot of MMA coaches won't give you that option. But some people just want to come in and do that. And I go, and I think that's not really for everybody, So what we try and do is make the classes So that a woman in her 30s who's got 3 kids can come in and do a class. A guy who's fighting pro can do a class, and they'll both get something out of it, and that's the way we try and work it. So basically, the school is run. They come in, they get we talk to them, discuss their needs, what they want to do, maybe try and guide them to what we think they want to do, and then they have 2 free lessons, 2 complimentary lessons. Mm-hmm. If they haven't decided after that, I usually say, listen, we'll give you another one for free. See if you take it there. Or if, to be honest, in a very rare occasion, I've decided actually I don't want you in my school, I'll guide them to another school and say, listen, I think probably it's better if you go to XYZ, because even in our area, within 1 mile radius, we have 6 full-time schools that are outside of us in 1 mile. Yeah, really. And my father-in-law, who's a businessman, he actually said to me, that's going to be good for you. And I thought, no way. And he said, no. He said, are you good at what you do? Do you provide a good service? I said, yes. He said, well, it's going to be good for you. And actually, he was right, because the people who are upset at the other schools come to us and usually stay. So it actually works out pretty good for us. Whereas, to be honest, in the beginning, I was like, I think we're going to lose a lot of people, but it hasn't really worked that way. So it's worked out pretty good.
How long have you had the school?
In one form or another, since 82. Since 82. We started up, I started up with a friend of mine back in 82. We had both done karate, I'd done judo and a tiny bit of wrestling. And we kind of got together, and he was a 3rd degree black belt in Shikokai karate. And he had this thing about full contact karate, which he'd seen coming from the States, mm-hmm. and was just beginning in Britain at that time, or had just began. And so we kind of started up something. We were trying some boxing, and it wasn't very structured, but our heart was in the right place, and that was in 82. And then after I seen Guru Dan in 84, we had a group. Originally, I didn't want to teach, and I've never felt really secure as a teacher. I've never felt like I was a natural teacher. So in 84, I came back from LA, and I wanted to get together a bunch of guys, like a black belt in Aikido, black belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, black belt in a wrestler, black belt in karate, get all these different boxers, try and get all these guys together so we would just exchange. So I wanted to get 10 guys, and all we would do is exchange. And that was the original idea of what was the genesis of the academy as it is now. But what actually happened was, because I'd come back from the States, because I was visiting different people, I was going down to Manchester training with Master Toddy in Thai boxing. I was trained with Bob Breen in London. And what happened was I had most of the knowledge. So it kind of organically turned into a class where I was teaching. And then from there, I never charged any money. And then I started charging $1 a lesson. If they want to give me it, basically $1, it was 50 pence, $1. And people still weren't paying, So for about 10 years, I was so poor. I mean, I had no money. I was taking the classes. I still had a job as a mailman. I was working 6 days a week in the mail. I was working 3 days a week as a doorman, or 3 nights a week as a doorman. So it was 7 days. And it was a really tough time for me, and then the class started to take off just organically, and then I started to actually make a little bit of money, which was great. And at that same time, I was getting Sifu Larry Hartzell in. Guru Dan was coming in for seminars. Sifu Larry came in, I think, 92 with the Coach Eric, and that was the first time Coach Eric had been in Britain, I think, in the UK. I think the first seminar he gave with Sifu Larry was in Edinburgh in my school. And then, Sifu Rick Fay came. And he was fantastic, a major influence on me. I mean, Sifu Rick Fay was just absolutely brilliant. And he came as Sifu, he was assistant to Sifu Hartzell too. And we had like boxing coaches come in, a lot of different people. We had some wrestlers come in, some judo guys. And that was how the whole the academy took off, and even when my own instructor came back, Sean Shanley, who had instructed me originally, he came back from England. I just gave the gym to him. I said, you teach and I'll go into class. I didn't really want to teach. And he taught for like 3 lessons, and everybody left because he was teaching so hard. He was really brutal. His teaching methods were really brutal. So then I came back, and he asked me to come back. So I came back and taught again. And it just kind of organically became what it is now. to where in October '99 I went professional because my wife said I had to do it. It was actually my wife that forced me to go professional. I was a mailman, and I would have still been a mailman now, but she said, "You're doing 50 seminars a year. You're working 6 days a week. You're teaching 4 days a week." And sometimes I would get 18 training sessions myself. So I was like beasting it, and I was dying. So I was so tired. She goes, "You're tired all the time, And I said, yeah, I'm tired because, I'm doing a lot of stuff. And we were just married. And she said, "You got to stop." She goes, "You're going to go professional. You're going to do this right." And then that was the beginning of what it became now. Yeah.
That's fantastic. 50 seminars a year.
It was. I got up to. I think 3 years I did 50. I think one I did 55.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was nuts. I got to be honest. I was dying. And now I look back and I think, how did I do that? How did I manage that? And I think, really? Yeah. But anyway, there it is. Yeah.
I have a quick question. When you had the 10 guys, or the early on part that we were talking about, so you went professional in '99.
Yes.
Full time with your school.
Yes.
So in between there, what were the steps you took, or a step you took, to where, because you said you were charging $1 a lesson or no money. When did that transition happen? What was that piece?
I think I got to be honest. I think I was sick of being poor. If I'm being honest, I was sick of paying the rent. And I just thought, and my standard, I was basically, coming to America and having to take out loans. And I just got to that point where I think you say, enough's enough. I deserve a better standard of living than this. I'm really putting out so much energy here. And not that I think anybody owes me a living or anything, but I thought this is just crazy, because I was in so much debt. I remember one trip I went away and I came back and they were going to foreclose on my house. I hadn't paid my mortgage for 3 months, but I'd been to the States to train. And I was putting that above everything, And I just got to the stage where it was kind of at the same stage as I was coming to the realization that this really couldn't go on. This wasn't sustainable. Mm-hmm. The gym was taken off because Guru Dan was visiting Britain. The JKD and Cali were taken off. The UFC had begun. Was more interest in martial arts and in the martial arts that I was teaching, and it kind of happened organically like that. So it was kind of a bunch of things merging together. That I just thought, no, this is not sustainable. This is something that I don't want to live my life like. I think back then we had the vision of every martial arts had to be pure. If you were a good martial artist, you had to be pure. If you made money, you were selling out. And of course, that's absolutely totally wrong. But even when I spoke to Guru Dan, Guru Dan, I don't think went fully professional until he was, I think it was 43 or 47, which is incredible. He never went, but he was still teaching, I think, Harvard College, and an insane position for a man who is so far out in his field, and so far ahead in his field. But that's something that I think was kind of part of the mindset back then. Whereas now, I think we can teach like I try and teach now, where we have a nice gym, we have a nice academy, we have a good atmosphere, we charge a reasonable price. I think we teach martial arts to a good level, and people are happy with it. Happy with the what we're providing.
What was the response with the first group of guys that you said, guys, you're now going to have to start paying? Did you lose anybody?
I think you know the answer. People, when you give, I was saying this to a student of mine last week, when you give something for free, people generally don't value it. If you keep giving your time for free, or if you give your merchandise for free, or if you give everything for free, people generally think that either you've got too much of whatever it is, too much time, too much energy, or you've got too much money that you can give things away. I think after a while, people generally think that it's easy for you. And that first group were a bunch of great guys, but a lot of them didn't want to pay anything. And I was thinking, well, I've just gone to the States, and at that time, I think my first trip was about $3,000. It cost me maybe $3,500. That was back in '84. It was a big trip for me. and and I thought, well, I put a lot of money here, and I didn't expect to get that money back in compensation as teaching. But I thought, well, I am teaching here. Even if we could just buy equipment. At first, I just wanted to buy some Tide pads or some bags or some equipment for the school, for the place we had. But yeah, they weren't very receptive to it. They didn't want to pay. Yeah, that's the bottom line.
So you probably had some turnover there. I'm assuming, because that's usually how it goes. So then what? So then another group. How did you put the flag out there to say, okay, lessons, we're charging for them, this is taking the next step? What was the next step? Like, how did you get people to pay? I think
when people had moved around, and as they say, the information was becoming more available. So I think people were realizing that actually, if you go down to London, you're going to be charged X amount if you train, and then actually that's a lot of money, and realizing basically what the going rate is for what you're being given. And I think also that when we moved into better accommodation, with better training halls, we had more equipment, then it was more professionally run. So I think people then began to say, okay, we'll pay for this, that'll pay. Whereas everything was done out of my pocket in the beginning anyway. But we would put the club funds into getting more pads, supplying more equipment. If someone didn't have sticks, we would have sticks there for them. We had mats, which I bought. And so it was becoming more professional in that sense. So I think people said, okay, you're providing a better service in terms of what you're giving us. So then we will pay what it takes for that. Whereas the first hall we had, not to tell war stories, but the first hall we had was in a place called the Fort in Leith in Edinburgh. And a really rough area of Edinburgh, beautiful people, but a really rough area. And as I was teaching, bricks would go through the windows. Yeah. As I was teaching, bricks would go. Then they put wire up, and then he would still put things through the windows. And it was kids, So it was that kind of area, you can imagine. So it's not conducive to people saying, "Well, I'm in a really secure situation here." So this was way back, and so once we got out with that place, which was an interesting experience. It was actually a good experience for me, because it was how you can only go up from that. You can only get better from there, and that's basically what we did. So I think as we progressed and went to better academies, then we were providing a better service, and then people said, okay, we can start paying for this. Also, I think not to be big-headed, but I think I was teaching better. I was understanding more how to structure a class. And when I began to understand how to structure a class more, watching Sensei Eric teach, watching Guru Dan teach, watching Sifu Larry Hartzell or Sifu Rick Fay, I thought, I have to structure this for people, because in the beginning, I was teaching as much as I could in 2 hours. I would just teach as much information as I could and think this is the way that I teach, not realizing that people needed time to digest information. So they weren't getting time to digest. And then I would teach something totally different in the next class, and I would try and copy Guru Dan on a seminar, just teach lots of information. And eventually I realized that actually people need time to digest this. They need time to work on it. They need a structure. They need to feel familiar with the material before they move on. And we have to have a center to what we're teaching. And again, this was done through all my great teachers that were teaching me. I was thinking, well, the way they teach, I understand now why they're taking this approach to teaching. I think that helped as well. So people then began to feel familiar. Even now, I teach probably slower now than I've ever taught, but I teach more information, if that makes sense. So for the CSW program, we'll go through a 6-week period where we're working on one particular aspect of, let's say the game. So you're going to work attacking the guard or attacking the guard on the legs. So we'll work on that particular part of the game. We'll pass the guard, we'll go to the legs, we'll attack the legs, we'll pass the guard, we'll go to knee and belly, attack the legs. But people, if they miss the class on a Monday, they'll get it on a Wednesday. If they miss it on a Wednesday, they get it on a Friday. If they miss that week, they'll get it next week. So it won't be a jump. And I think for me too, I need familiarity in what I'm being taught. I need to be familiar with the material before I really move on, because I'm a very slow learner. And I think for most people, Sensei Eric or Coach Eric would be slightly different, because his ability to absorb material is insane. I don't think I've ever met anybody who can absorb material and then show it and do it as quickly and such a quick turnaround. So he would be somebody who would be different, but your general person, your general student, I think really needs that familiarity. And I think that helped with the continuation of the people coming in and people and students staying and the retention at the school.
That's such an excellent point you bring up. Sometimes that comes across with us too, is people get confused between seminar teaching and regular class teaching.
Yeah.
That's what you just described,
Yeah,
because it's not 30 techniques in a class. The reason they're doing that is because you have them for 2 days. They're dumping information on you. This is not your regular class structure.
Exactly. That's a great point. And I think I've said to my students too, when Guru Dan came, like when he came to the UK, and you've just said it, Bob, and when he came to the UK, he would come once a year. And so he would come and give a 8 to 10 hour seminar. And as you said, teach all this material, and you had 1 year to work it out. So you had 1 year to remember, to go ask your training partner, what was this, what was that? And then the next year, I mean, I was lucky because I was going to the States too, but the next year he would show and give another seminar, and some of that material would be similar, some would be dissimilar, but you would at least have an anchor on something, where a lot of people are floating, are riding the waves, and they don't have any anchor. They don't know how to anchor themselves. They have no nucleus to what they're doing, and no cohesion between what's being taught. So I think it's really, really important that we have that now. And as you said, the seminar teaching is totally different. Seminar sometimes, or you get some inspiration, you get some techniques, you watch a master, you think that was fantastic, and then you go back, you hopefully absorb some of the material, you go back, and then you work on it. And as we have now with the internet, with Sensei Eric's online training, all that stuff. If I had that when I was back starting, man, I would be 10 times better than I am today, because that information is so, especially on the program, the CSW program, is so well organized that I can look at any one specific thing and work on that for a week or 2 weeks, however long I need to work on it. Then I can work on something else, and it's outlined for me. So it makes life an awful lot easier than it was before, particularly for me as a student, and for my own students when I was teaching them.
I like that you brought up the because there's sometimes a difference of opinion on whether I'm sure you've seen some of the conflict of online learning, etc. I don't want to get into any of the politics of that. I can't say it better than you just said it, but the point, you really did say it well. The whole reason to organize that material, I don't know what we have at this point. It's probably I would say around over 3,000 lessons in there right now, which is too much for anybody to absorb at once. It's too big of a bite. And the whole point for chunking the stuff down is so you can have that reference to go back to it and refer to it. And then from that, well, now you're secure. Just what you said. There's the nucleus. So, or the home base you can come back to. Here's your reference material to go train this stuff. And then you can have freedom from that. So now you can go out and be creative, because Alan and I had a discussion before we started the call about too many options is sometimes worse than no options.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Best way to teach somebody nothing is teach them too much.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you have a way to go, okay, I'm going to work and you just said it, like you'll go for 6 weeks in one area. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You came at it a different way, but it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I think it's important because most of us, particularly nowadays, you need a structured life. If you have a busy life, you need a structured life, and you need to have. And the same thing. If I go to, if my son goes to swimming, I like his swimming lesson to be structured, and it is. He gets a structured lesson. He has a warm up. He does this. He does that. We can see what's happening, and then they will change the structure of it a little bit for him, depending on if they have a competition coming up or what they have coming up. So it's incredibly important to have that structure and also have time, because you're going to get students who, I have students who are autistic, and I have students who pick it up incredibly quickly. Yeah. So you have a spectrum between people who find it very difficult to pick anything up, and then you have like people who are fighting professionally. So in that spectrum, you have to say, well, how am I going to teach this person? Because people said before, I mean, there's things coming out, I've taught the Navy SEALs, or I've taught the SWAT teams. These are easy people to teach. If you can't teach the Navy SEALs to fight, then you have a problem. If you can, if you can teach a 35-year-old mother of 3 to fight or defend herself, that's when you can teach.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Teaching an athlete's easy. I mean, it is, isn't it? It's teaching an athlete is really easy. An athlete is primed to go. You take an 18-year-old kid, he's ready to go. He's got no responsibilities. If you can't take him and make him good, then you have to assess your teaching method. But you also, again, a good teacher is going to be someone we can take, someone who isn't a martial artist, who really hasn't done very much, who isn't very athletic, and then make them good. Now, if someone looks, I have students who, if you look at them, you would think they're really not that great as martial artists. But actually, if you've seen where they came from and where they are, you would go, man, the difference between where they started and where they are is much huger than between where I started and where I am as a martial artist. It's incredible. The changes made to their life. So the teaching structure is incredibly important, and how you relate to the student on a one-to-one basis too, so that you can for your higher level students and even your lower level students, get into their head and know what they really want and what they want to do, and whether that's actually attainable. Because everybody wants to be the UFC champion now, or they want to be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt champion, adult black belt. Not everybody's going to get there. Not everybody can be Roger Gracie, or Hickson, or whoever. It's just not going to, or a John Jones. These are the elite of the elite, and we really got to look at and say, how can I take this person who's not very good and make them good, rather than someone who's already got the athletic ability, which we can do too, and then take them. And again, Sensei Eric, Coach Eric, is brilliant at that. I mean, I've seen him do stuff, and he's just absolutely fantastic helping people. So his understanding of that has really helped me, and the way, first of all, how you treat people, and also how you teach them. Yeah, so it does make a huge difference how it's structured.
Well, it's great. I'm editing some video with our friend Don Guerin, and I just came across a quote that he said. It says, "Within the structure lies the freedom." And
yes,
that's so perfect. That's
absolutely.
A T-shirt.
Yes, that's great. Yeah,
I love it. I love that, because most people think, you're going to box me in. It's like, well, you remember the old the JKD debate? It was, well, this is my JKD and this is my JKD. So wait a minute, hold up. Yeah, I think you're skipping a few steps. You didn't learn the structure yet. You didn't learn the system yet. You're throwing everything out before you even tried anything. Like, you didn't work it yet.
It's the 3 stages of Jeet Kune Do, isn't it? Because you have original freedom, which is just like where you're just going and you don't understand what you're doing. Then you have the mechanical stage, which is what the stage that most of us are in, where we're trying to work everything out, and we're trying to work out. We have our favorites, we have things that we're working on, and then you have return to original freedom, where you're just letting it go. But you need to go through those stages, the mechanical stage, to get there, to get to a point where you're actually working economically in the fight. You're working in a combative way that makes sense, rather than just swinging and slugging it out and doing your thing. And again, we're talking. I'm talking to Eric. He's at that level where he can just let it go at any range, which is an incredible thing. And a lot of people underestimate him too, because his Kali and his John Fan's great too. And a lot of people see him as just as an MMA submission wrestler, whatever, catch as catch can. But his Jeet Kune Do and his Filipino martial arts, because of course he's a full instructor in that, is top notch too. And it's very rare to have someone at that level. And I think to get to that, as you were saying about Don Guerin, you need to have a semblance of structure, and then you can have your freedom, real freedom. Whereas you think you have freedom in the beginning, but really you don't, because you're limited by your knowledge, and then you go past that knowledge, So, yeah, absolutely true. Yeah.
Yeah, and all right, it's a little corny. People do throw the word around way too much, but you've touched on it. Eric Paulson truly, in my opinion, he is a genius.
For sure.
Very rare.
For sure. Yeah.
Very, and to hear that come out of Guru Dan's mouth, I've heard several times. You don't hear that very often. He's just a rare person. I don't know how he comes up with things. You just watch him doing it. You're standing right there watching him organically create something, and I do not know how you just got there. What just happened? He's Mozart with martial arts. It's like what just happened in front of me?
Yeah, I agree. I can't. I used to try, and in the beginning years, I kind of got frustrated because I thought, man, I should be able to keep up with this. And then I realized it was impossible. I can't get anywhere close to this level. So then I would just watch him develop and try and pick up the little pieces, like the crumbs that I could pick up off him, and try and get what I could get from him. I mean, in relation to his knowledge. And he would always go, you've got this. I go, Eric, I don't have this. I said, I really don't. I have this. And then he would teach it and structure it for me, which was fantastic, But I think you're right. I think he is a genius. Yeah, he's a genius. He's like Guru Dan. When you look at Guru Dan, the way that he sees things, it's on a different level, and Coach Eric's like that too. He's on a different level where total body submission for him means total body submission. I mean, I watched him roll with someone last year, and I was like, man, I didn't even see that coming. I'm a third. I don't need pull. I'm not pulling rank, but I'm a third-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. And I'm looking at him going, I didn't see that. Where the heck did that come from? So he's on a different level. And as you said, Bob, about Guru Dan, I was in a class 2 weeks ago in LA on the Tuesday night class, and Coach Eric said to Guru, do you want a break? Do you want me to take the JKD class? So Coach Eric took it for him, and Guru Dan was just watching, smiling all the way through the class. He was just smiling, looking at it, saying, that's fantastic, And whenever he's on seminars, even in Stockton, I did a seminar with Guru Dan in Stockton a couple weeks ago. He was talking about Coach Eric, about his spiritual beliefs and about what Coach Eric had said. And I think that makes, that says a lot about him, And I know that Guru Dan doesn't talk about people, especially in seminars, even privately, that much if he doesn't mean it, And he loves it with bits. Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
You talked about bringing the information from seminars back to the school, and you had that moment when you realized, I've got to change this. Did you rewrite all the curriculums for your school at that point?
I basically tried to simplify everything. And I think two things happened. One was in my head, I thought, I'm not working this materially enough myself. Mm-hmm. I need to work this material before I show it to people. Because I think some people, they'll go to a seminar, come back to the school and say, hey, I learned this great leg lock at the weekend, or I learned this, or I learned that. When actually, for me, because I'm a very slow learner, my learning curve is very, very, very slow. But when I get it, I retain it usually. But I realized I wasn't working on the material, and I thought, before I teach this, because as you know, Coach Allen, that when you're teaching, someone's going to ask you a question from the side that you've never even thought of. You go, wow. And if I've just learned that material in a seminar, and someone asks me a question, I'm not going to have the answer for that. So usually what I would do is I'd learn it in a seminar. Then, because if it was, usually it'd be Coach Eric or Sifu Hartzell or Rick Fay or Sifu Rick Fay or Guru Dan, that then I would work on it. I'd go back to LA. I would ask them about it. I'd go more, and that's why I said my trips have become more specific. So when I come to LA now, sometimes I have very specific questions that I want to ask. Like this time, I was asking Coach Eric about leg locks, because leg locks now are obviously hugely in vogue with Eddie Cummings and Gary Tonin and all these guys coming out now. But I think Killer Leg Locks 1 came out about 98 or something, and it was years ago, and I'd go back to Coach Eric and say, listen, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? And this time I was asking him about the differences between their leg locks and his leg locks. And he'd give me an explanation, because this is what my students ask me. Mm-hmm. They say, can you explain this? So when I come back from a seminar, I try and work on the material, go back to my instructors, make sure it's correct, ask them the questions that I think that I have, and also that I think my students are going to ask. So when I go back and teach it, I'm hopefully better as a martial artist, but I'm also better as a teacher. And and then filter through the information slowly again. Yeah, as we go through it. So we'll go through this new material. So sometimes I'm teaching material that was taught 5 years ago, and I haven't taught it yet because I'm still working on it myself. I'm still thinking, this is actually for me. This is actually the material that I have to work on, because, you know, if we're teaching, you know, I look at firstly as myself as a martial artist. How am I improving as a martial artist? Am I improving? And at 54 years old now, I think physically it's harder to stay in shape. It's harder to, you know, there'll be certain things you lose your, you know, your response time, you lose certain things. But there's a lot of things I can gain. I can be better at 54 than I was at 20. I can improve very much on that. So I look and go, how am I going to improve as a martial artist? How can I take this material and make it work for me? Or how can I turn it around and change it? And so then I'll go to my instructors, ask this, and then get that input back. And also, it's really important for me to go to them and ask, because it's important for me to be the student and to absorb not only the material, but the energy that they give me. So when I'm with Coach Eric, he always gives me great energy. I'm always full. After I go to Guru Dan, I'll sit with him and have breakfast, or I'll have lunch, or I can have a one class, and he'll give me enough in that lunch or breakfast or class for a year. You know, it used to be the same with, unfortunately, obviously, Sifu Larry has passed. Sifu Rick Fay is the same, but I don't see him too much now. And Paul Vunak was the same when I was with Sifu Vunak. He a totally different type of energy, but he would be great. He would be great. And Mauricio Gomez, Maestro Gomez, my instructor, he helps me out so much too. So then I can come back to my students, take the material, either learn in a seminar or learn in a class, and then I can have a more well-rounded and more mature understanding of it. I don't want to be one of those guys who just copy, you know, they cut and paste and they copy things. I want to understand the material. So when my student asks me a question, they say, why do you do this, Rick? Why wouldn't you do that? Why would it go there? Why wouldn't it go there? Why do you put the leg under here and not over here? Why do you do that? And I really find that as an instructor, then, that my depth of knowledge has to be you know, it has to be deep, you know. And also because as an instructor, I'm representing my instructors. So if I can't do a leg lock properly, what does that say about Coach Eric? If I can swing a stick properly, what does that say about Coach Guru Dan? You know, so it's very important to me that I represent my instructors well, both in the classroom, out of the classroom, both in martial arts and out of martial arts, as well as I possibly can. Because if I represent CSW, I want to represent it well, because I'm a representative of my coach, Eric Paulson. If I represent Guru Dan, you know, I want the same. I don't want him thinking, man, this guy comes from, he's a full instructor under Eric Paulson, and he can't even do a leg lock, or he can't do a guard pass, or he can't do, you know, a Kimura or whatever. I want to make sure that it's done properly, and that's very important to me. So, so the structure of teaching from seminar to class is a longer one than I think it would be for most people, because I think some people jump from the seminar and just teach it. They learn it on a Sunday and they teach it on a Monday. And I go, you haven't had time to absorb the information, unless you're like Sensei Eric and you have that ability, but I don't think many people do.
And so expanding on that a little bit, now you've taken it to the art part of martial arts. Once again, you described it perfectly. There's the structure. You need to work through that, the mechanical part. And now and Alan calls this salt and pepper. So there's the things you have to know to be functional. And then there's your expression of it. You know, the Bruce Lee quotes, they're used all the time. Now it's your self-expression. And then now you're a martial artist. Now it's my flavor of whatever this is. But we can still come back to, it's still the same. Guru uses cooking analogies and stuff all the time. It's still the same dish, but your dish is going to taste different than mine, even though we did it the same way. So
absolutely,
that's beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, if we look at Sensei Coach Eric, and we look at Sensei Yuri Nakamura, they teach totally differently. You know, they teach totally differently, but Yuri Nakamura taught Eric a lot, obviously a lot of the Shuto things. But Eric's taken that material and he's expanded on it enormously, and as well as being able to teach it in the structure. If you want to go Shuto lesson 1, Shuto lesson 2, 3, 4, whatever flow, you can do that. But also he can switch it, so his personalities come into it. there, which I think is fantastic. It's a great thing. We look at Guru Inosanto, who's had, I think, almost over 40 different Filipino martial art instructors alone, and which is insane. And he distills that information for us, and then we can then try and make sense. He makes sense of that information for us, and then he distills it and he gives it to us. But then he also says, listen, if you want to go to Pakiti Tersha, you can go here. If you want to go to the Canete brothers, you can go here. If you want to go do Doce Paras, if you want to do Balintawak, if you want to do whatever, then you can go here. So they distill it for you. And Coach Eric is the same. We'll distill it for you, give you it. And if you go, well, where did that really come from? So if I really want, I can go down to Wigan and I can learn, go to the Wigan pit. I can go down there. It'll take me 3 hours to drive from here tonight. I can go down there and learn. And that would be one area where I would be going to one of the sources of the material. But I don't think it's going to be any better than what Coach Eric has shown me, because he's already explained it in a really great way and put his personality on it. I try and do that with my classes. And of course, you try to put what you think is a valuable lesson in the class for the both technically and maybe with a little bit of message behind that for your students. And you can only teach the best way that you can. And I've made thousands of mistakes through the years. I've made so many mistakes with students that I wish I could go back and sort them out. I probably make mistakes now. When I tell my students that, I say, I'm teaching you to the best of my ability. I'm teaching you to the best of my knowledge through what I've been taught. And that's all I can do. And I'm doing it honestly. Now, I may be wrong in some things, but I'm doing it honestly. I'm trying to do it in a way. I'm not trying to fake you out. I'm not trying to hold things back. I'm not trying to send you on one route when I'm going in another. I'm giving you something honestly that hopefully will help you in your martial art and life development. And that's all you can do, I think, is go through that. And as long as you do it true to yourself and true to good morals, then I think that's the best way to go.
What do you think, Alan?
That's all I've got.
That was amazing.
I'm sorry, I was rambling on. I apologize.
No.
No. That was fantastic. I've got to say, I'm inspired from this podcast. Your story is a story of just willpower and dedication, and such a tremendous amount of energy. It's fantastic. The guys are going to love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on here and sharing that. It's just incredible.
And the humility and lifelong student attitude you have. Please, if you guys don't take anything else away from that, just listen to how this man is so humble, and he's still learning, and he's still studying, and he has the right to be a little cocky right now. And you don't hear any of that, do you?
I don't know.
You don't hear any of that. See, he doesn't even like me saying that. But Guru Rick, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
We love
it. Can I just say it's been a real privilege for a kid from Leith in Edinburgh to be interviewed like this, and so many years after I started. It's a real privilege for me to be talking to you guys and to be associated with the CSW. I'm just so honored to be under Guru Eric, because we are obviously the CSW right now, and it's just fantastic. I just really am honored to be under all these people, and it's great to meet you, Alan. It was great to meet you the other week there. It's a real privilege for me to meet you. No, thank you, thank you so much, and Bob. And thanks for all the work you do, Bob. I know that I'm amazed by your technological wizardry. And I'm amazed that I could even hook up like this. So thank you so much. Makes two of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Guru Rick.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Eric Paulson's Combat Submission Wrestling Professional Coaches Association. We are striving to be one of the top organizations in the world for professional martial arts instructor training and business development in the martial arts industry. For more information, you can contact me, Alan Baker, at cswatlanta@gmail.com or through the main website at ericpaulson.com.